All right, everyone. This episode of Wrestle Magic, we are having an interview with the Pope, Elijah Burke, and I am so excited for this because not only is he great in the ring, not only is he great on the mic, but he does some amazing community work with his charity, the Love Alive charity. And I think it is an amazing thing to give back to a community, especially after seeing struggles and everything that has gone on. So without further ado, Mr. Burke, how are you doing? And can you tell us more about the Love Alive?
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here with you. And first thing I just want to say, I appreciate you for acknowledging the charity and more importantly, the work that we are doing in and around the community and cities of Jacksonville, Florida. It is so funny that I sit down to have this interview with you, and right before I'm doing this, I'm speaking with Brandon Alexander, who is the voice for my charity events, specifically the wrestling portion, because we do fundraising shows. That's kind of the only way to help offset the cost because we're not government supported, I should say. We operate off of public donations and obviously off of Pope's own pocket. But I was just speaking with Brandon, Man in Black B, as I call him, as we're setting up for another event at a school now. And this is not a wrestling event. This is just one of the events or something that we do when we go to the school and we help speak to the young men and women about their future and how to prepare for it. And you know, when you look back over life, one of the reasons I like to do these things, I don't know about you, but in my lifetime, those DARE, DARE, when they used to hold those rallies or assemblies, or you had doctors or maybe not doctors, but firemen and policemen come out and speak to classrooms. And sometimes you had athletes, like the Mr. T's or whatnot, successful individuals that will come in and speak to the youth. That had a lasting impression. And I do believe that someone in my position and others that are a part of the charity and my Becoming program, mentorship program, I think, us going to the schools and speaking to, especially in impoverished communities, especially with the troubled youth, to let them know that, hey, man, anything is possible and you can be anything that you choose to be. Education first, and so we have that coming up with Oak Leaf Junior High School, and we're going to be doing that in accordance with our event that's going to run the next day, which is called Revelation, which would be in Jacksonville, Florida, at the Murray Hill Church Gymnasium, 4300 Post Street. So we're going to have our last event, fundraising event of the year. We'll have JTG, Jay the God from Prime Time. He'll be returning. We'll have the Velveteen Dream, formerly Patrick Clark. He'll be there. Myself, the Russell Twins, Isaiah Zane, Slapmaster Stunt Marshall, Jay Rios, the international superstar, and the list goes on. So, but I do appreciate you bringing up our charity, because my charity is foremost to me. It means the world to go out to help people, to feed and clothe the homeless, to assist the sheltered women who have been displaced from their homes by their own will, maybe out of abusive relationships or whatnot. They take their kids and they go live in the center, and the list goes on. So just trying to do our part, man, to be the change that we wish to see in the world as we positively influence many people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that is incredible what you're doing. I love hearing that not only are you performing, but you're also going out of your way and using your name and your fame a little bit to also try to make a difference in the world. And that is a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah. What's the point of being in a position and not doing anything with it? And while we're on it, I just want to, thank you for donating to our cause as well, because again, we do not, it's hard, man. We have maybe 31 to 2 donations on the year. And this is just from civilians, so we do acknowledge everyone. We put out, those who have donated and contributed to the cause, because we want to encourage others to do the same thing. And we appreciate your donation towards the Love Alive charity. And anybody who's listening that wish to do the same, you can do so by visiting love-alive.org, or you can donate directly via Cash App, $, of course, the Love Alive charity. And we will publicly acknowledge, as we do every donation that we get, because we can't do it without you.
Oh, wow. I appreciate you calling me out like that. I just wanted to help out as well, because I saw what you guys are doing, and I really have a lot of respect for it. And some longtime listeners may know I try to end every episode saying, do something nice for somebody. You never know who needs it. And, just hearing about somebody else who's running a charity, this means a lot just to me to hear, somebody else is looking to do the same, trying to make a change in somebody's life, because you never know who needs it out there. And it could be you one day.
Yeah, absolutely, my brother. Absolutely.
So along with that, I did want to ask, so what made you want to start the charity in the first place? I think it was a story that you had said you saw somebody throwing away a value meal or something, and then
that spawned it. That it didn't spawn it, but it lit the fire, I would say. Going all the way back to my youth, I always, I didn't grow up in the best neighborhoods. Okay, all of my homes. My childhood home, all 3 of them are under the Jacksonville Coliseum, under the Jaguar Stadium, the parking lot at that, couldn't even give us the ground that they're running the ball on. They put us in the, put the parking lot over my childhood homes. But, being a kid, walking to the store on Saturday morning, right, maybe right before the biscuits or the Smurfs, will come on. That's old school. I'm an 80s baby. So right after that would, it's like, let me get up there and go get whatever, mommy will put, $5 on the table for some milk and cereal. And can you believe that? Milk and cereal, $5 got you a lot. Mm-hmm. And, back then, and I maybe it was my turn to walk to the store, and I would walk, quarter of a mile up the road to the store, and for a kid that's 10, 11 years old coming out of a store, and the same individuals that I walked by or stepped over who were laying outside of a Winn-Dixie, which is what the store was called for those who may be familiar with Winn-Dixie in the South. It was heartbreaking to see grown homeless men ask a child for some change, and if I had a quarter, I gave them a quarter or whatever the case may be. But that's some of the stuff that I experienced in my youth. But specifically, back in 2011, I was having a conversation with a family member, a friend, and we're in the parking lot of a McDonald's. Now, we didn't eat. We just happened to meet there so that I can give some guidance. And while doing so, I see a car pull through the late night drive-through and throw some stuff in the garbage. I don't know what or why, but they just threw something in the garbage. And right when they threw it in the garbage at that, drive-through spot, which McDonald's was closed, or maybe they were sitting in the parking lot eating after it had closed, threw it in the garbage, and all of a sudden I saw, while speaking, a homeless individual walk to the garbage, take off the lid, retrieve the bag that was just thrown in there, and in a moment of going through it, it was like eureka. I struck gold, because it was a half-eaten sandwich, whatever that sandwich was. And then he took the cup, he grabbed the cup, and he shook the cup, and it had some drink in it. And he immediately, and that just moved me. It's like, shout out to everyone who do their part to make a difference or try to make a difference. You know, I have nothing against the Jaguars, Shaq Khan, Tony Khan, and many of the other big, you know, time personalities that may inhabit the city of Jacksonville. But I think that our work should be done on a consistent basis from a place of a sincere place from one's heart, and not because there's a tragedy that just took place and it's a great time for PR, but a natural disaster and this would be good for your brand and let's do this. And I see these people all the time because they're my people. I take to the streets. Me and my charity, for the past 3 years, I have not sat, maybe 4 years for me personally, I haven't sat down at a table on Thanksgiving.
Really?
Let me be clear in saying that, okay? I have not sat down at a table with my family on Thanksgiving. From the moment the sun comes up, I'm on the street. I'm going to Wawa. I'm getting hot coffee, and I got platters and meals and sandwiches, and go out to the street, and I give thanks to my Creator for allowing us to be able to do that. I have some kids that I spoke about that are part of my Becoming Mentorship program, as well as obviously they're part of the charity. The Russell twins, Isaiah Zane, they come all the way from New Orleans. For the past 2 to 3 years, they've given up their Thanksgiving to give thanks. What is Thanksgiving without giving?
Yeah, I agree. At that point, it's just kind of a buffet with your family. I mean,
that's it. So, and I'm aware and I'm grateful. And I think everyone deserves to, it's become intertwined into the makeup and model of our culture. So I get that. I grew up on it. Used to love it too, because you can sit around and then just glut, and that's not good. But when you're sitting at the table the next time you're eating at Thanksgiving, to those who are listening, just think while you're stuffing your face and tossing away what you don't no longer want. Think about those who would climb over somebody else just to get the crumbs that you are tossing away. So I no longer celebrate Thanksgiving in a traditional manner. Neither do I celebrate Christmas in a traditional manner anymore. Christmas, I'm out on the streets representing the Love Alive charity in the same manner.
And that's exactly what the world needs, I feel like. So God bless you for doing it, honestly. You're doing a great thing, and I have nothing but respect for it, because you're going beyond the ring, beyond the ropes, and you're making sure that your fellow man is taken care of. And that's something we need more of in today's society, for sure. And along with that, I did also want to ask you, so you mentioned a little bit about growing up in Jacksonville. I did want to ask you, so what was your childhood like as well, if you're okay with sharing a little bit about that?
Daddy, you can ask Pope anything you choose. Pope will answer, and Pope will redirect if necessary. So you don't have to worry about that. But again, growing up in Jacksonville, I grew up in a time where, taking Pope down memory lane, where crazy enough, we will have brand new bicycles that we probably get for Christmas or whatnot, and you can leave it out in your front yard and just go to bed and come back downstairs, walk past it, it's still in the yard, go to school, come back home, do your homework, change your clothes, and go right back to that same spot where your bike is laying, get on it, and go ride with your friends. Like, that's, just crazy. I grew up, again, most of the homes, well, all of my childhood homes, if you want to call it, they're gone. So it's not like I could take a camera crew and go back and say, yeah, Pope stayed here and Pope stayed. It'd kind of be like parking lot F and row 5 is, like spot 26, like, yo. So that kind of speaks to the low impoverished, maybe middle class, or right under neighborhoods that I grew up in. My father was a mechanic, and he was a self-made man who dropped out of school in 6th grade to take care. He was the oldest brother. He helped his mom raise his brothers and sisters, which, you got a brother taking a fatherly role like that, then, you're going to draw some resentment from your siblings. Like, you ain't my daddy. So I can only imagine. So, but he dropped out. He was always special with his hands. Went from working on cars under a tree to establishing his own business and having people working under him. And was one of the most sought after and well-known mechanics in the city of Jacksonville. You want your car fit, you take it to Mr. Burke. And that's what everybody did. My mom, who is my heart and joy, she was a server for all of her life, and by server, I mean serving individuals. She was in the field of CNA. She was activity director. She dealt with senior and individuals who couldn't take care of themselves. She did that her whole career, and that's a lot of where I get my, I would imagine, my compassion from, and my love for my fellow man. It's just in my DNA, and she's a wonderful mother, the greatest mother that anyone could ever ask for. So very fortunate to have my mother in my life. At this day and age, nobody's getting younger. I say that because I no longer have my father. But I'm grateful for everything that he instilled in me. Every whooping, y'all hear that? That's right. Every butt whooping I got. Yep. Gosh, man, if I don't get those things, 'cause I wasn't a bad child, like, on the streets and in the drugs and all that other type of stuff. And, I was just somebody who always found trouble. I would do devious things, Here, let me make you guys laugh. I'm talking about, like, being at church, and I know we're finna get to the wrestling stuff, but I'm so into the NWA. I mean, obviously I'm back with NWA now, but I'm so into NWA 80s. I'm talking about Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, the Midnight, Rock and Roll Express, and the list goes, the Four Horsemen, and of course, Nikita Koloff, which brings me to the story that I'm about to tell you, right? I'm at church. I was raised in the church. And I'm glad, that I was, and I'm glad that in my later life I got the understanding of why. As a kid, we're just there because our parents take us there and we know what we're about. But boy, when you find out the truth for yourself, when you become enlightened, and it's like, and you have a true understanding. But anywho, so I'm at church just dismissed. And my godfather, he was a minister, and he was like the youth pastor, probably before that term was even being tossed around, So he was just a minister, and he was someone who had a love for wrestling, just like myself. Sometimes he would get all the youngins and for vacation Bible school, take us to the pools. Me being his godson and a couple of others, we would be at his house, and he'll watch the wrestling with him and all that stuff. One day we're getting out of church, and I say, God, Dad, I said, watch this. I said, Nikita Koloff. And he said, don't do it, Elijah. Because one of my church members, so this dude, he's standing over with his back to me.
Oh,
And
God.
he's in the grassy, he's in the grassy area, but I'm like a lion in the Serengeti. I'm tiptoeing. I said, watch this. And he said, Elijah, don't do it. Don't do it. And I take off running. And as soon as I get within 2.5 feet of him, he turns around as if it was a perfect cell in wrestling, turned around perfectly and fed into it. And I took his neck off, and he got up and he couldn't breathe. And of course, it got everybody's attention. And of course, grandma immediately grabbed the switch off the doggone tree, and the rest is history. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, you're wrestling in church, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. As soon as church was out, you would think, you're leaving and it's kumbaya. Nah, for me, it's like, okay, it's Sunday. It's Sunday. Main event is coming on at 6:05 Eastern time, so we're always ready for that. It's leave church, it's eat, and it's let's watch some WCW main event on 6:05 Eastern time. So, yeah, man, I was a huge wrestling fan. Me and my brother at one point, we were such fans and Road Warrior fans that we did the haircut. Can you imagine 2 black kids walking around with a hawk and animal haircut?
I mean, I think it'd look good either way, but it's still awesome just to hear how much you love the Road Warriors as well as all these other wrestlers. NWA must have had a huge impact on you as a kid.
Absolutely, and that's why my journey to the NWA meant so much to me. Becoming the NWA World Television Champion. Again, something which is probably one of my favorite matches, if not my favorite. Certainly my favorite Dusty Rhodes Arn Anderson encounter. I remember that match it's just one of my vivid memories of when he won the title from Arn Anderson, and NWA is the reason, not WWF.
Mm-hmm.
NWA is the reason I wanted to become a wrestler. I always had my hopes, my dreams of becoming a professional wrestler, being in Jacksonville, Florida, not knowing how that could ever be possible. But, he who holds the plan, there's nothing impossible for.
Oh, totally agree. And I think NWA definitely had positive influence on you. I'm glad to see that you're still working with them and everything. And it's really awesome to see just how much that your love for the company still moves forward for you and how much you are still pushing yourself to perform as well. And I think that you are a great performer as you are. Your technical wrestling and everything is phenomenal. I like the fact that you actually try to chain wrestle more than just make big spots and everything. And
man, that is pretty cool because the art of wrestling is a jousting contest. It is not a outperform or outmaneuver sport. It's supposed to be a contest. So you're going to get to your moves and outperform one another. But, listen, we understand wrestling has progressed and changed and transformed so much. But at the end of the day, wrestling is still on the marquee. Wrestling is still what draws individual in, and it just can't be a tumbling, flipping contest. It just can't, but I think what we see now, Rose, is that the life expectancy of your career now, because of the way wrestling has dramatically changed, so has the careers now. In other words, the careers shorten now. So the days of 20 and 25 year, 30 careers, those will soon become a thing of the past when you have your top guys in this era that are constantly getting injured because they're trying to perform Circus Soul Delay or whatever the heck it's called. I don't know, but it's a jousting contest, and that should always be implemented. One should always seek to get the upper hand before progressing to more desperate measures to come on top. That's where all the extra moves and all the other stuff come in. And it's like, okay, this hasn't worked. This didn't work. Well, now we got to take it to the next level. That's called building. Everything is supposed to build. If you start off in your match and the first 2 minutes of your match, you're already, diving out of the ring over the top rope, or, doing a 350 moonsault or gainer or whatever the list. It's like, okay, where do you go from here? And a lot of times that leaves you as the fan, as the viewer, myself, it leaves us underwhelmed, because at the end of the match, you go, wait, that beat him, but everything that I saw before didn't? Mm-hmm. That's the art of wrestling is, causing one to suspend their disbelief. But when you get hit with a doggone sledgehammer in your head, and that doesn't beat an individual, but, a pedigree does, which is more effective. I would think it's somebody in the head with a sledgehammer. No, that's not a shot at Triple H. That's just the only example I could use. I don't think Triple H has ever done that, by the way. But, you knew when he grabbed the sledgehammer and hit someone with the sledgehammer, it's a wrap. There's no other place to go. But today...
Yeah, wrestling certainly has changed. I mean, I feel like people are going now for get me that quick fame. And it's because so much of the internet now is like, what are people going to remember? What are people going to click on to see? The technical wrestling masterpiece? Or are they going to click on, hey, that big spot that just happened? And I feel like people are just looking to get that quick moment, just that quick, hey, I need to get my name out there. I got to be that guy who did that crazy thing in a match and make everybody go nuts for me on the internet. But something that I appreciated about your work from seeing it was you were still wrestling almost like NWA style. It felt like I was watching a much older match, but I was like, it's still technical masterpiece, and this is what I want to see. And one that I watched a little bit earlier, just getting my mind back in the mood for some of your talent and everything, was watching you versus Benoit. And I feel like it was a great match overall. And I was really impressed with your work. And then seeing when he was going for the diving headbutt and you pulled the knees up immediately, I was like, I see that for any other maneuver besides this one. How is he doing that? So I actually have to ask, was that agreed upon beforehand, or was that a match call, or, what was going on for that?
Everything. And I'm like this today. I am not. I just had at the NWA tape is with Mims, Big Strong Mims. He's their NWA's national champion. I just had a match with him, and a week before that, I was in Indiana, and I had a match with a kid named Ashton Adonis. Now, I'll use this as an example, not the Mims, but I'm out signing autographs at the table, and I get, a cue in my ear, like, hey, they want to know, when you're going to talk about the match and this and that. It's like, tell them, I can't believe I'm this guy now, but, that's what happens when you perfect your craft. It's like, tell them I'll call it in the ring. Mm-hmm. We can't determine, and he was their champion. He's a babyface champion, right? He's their babyface champion. Well, I'm the Pope. And that's not tooting my own horn. I just know that these people are going to love me too. So let's go out and feel, and let me figure out which direction we need to take to make this thing be a form of a story that these people can follow, invest in, gravitate to, and then finally, because we have them so into it, they forget that Pope's that they want to cheer for Pope, or they forget So it was great. Of course, in the moment, I flipped the switch a little bit, become a little bit more aggressive Pope, but I build up to it, and you have hecklers or people that are going to try to get you going. I'm saying, you don't want that Pope. And yes, we do. I'm like, no, you don't want that Pope. And gradually, after the kid keeps coming out on top, or, keeps whatever, now Pope takes a little bit of a shortcut. And then it's like, right? But my job is to get them behind him, get the kid over, and that's what we did. So back to your Benoit question. See, Pope goes in the wood, but I promise I'll come back out.
Yep.
So back to your Benoit question, same thing. I was like this kid Adonis. I went to Benoit and said, excuse me, yo, Chris, because he was doing his Hindu squats. So, and he had a straw in his mouth. And I'm like, hey, I just want to know when you want to talk. You know, what are we going to do for the heat spot? And he stops and he goes, no, you're wrong, Elijah. Now, mind you, we just wrestled on the weekend loop going into ECW. And that was just to get a feel for one another, something WWE still does today before they get the pay-per-view or to the PLE, as they call it now. They have the guys wrestle each other. Okay, let's take this out. Let's add this. Let's do this. So you can figure out what worked. Well, with me and Benoit, it was just me going out there and listening. And when it was time for TV, I felt a little different. Like, okay, hey, man, we're on ECW Live, you know. Like, you know, what's the plan? And he's like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. I say, okay. So I just stood there. He goes, listen to the people. Let them decide what the heat spot is. And so when you talk about that match, he just had me shoot him into the buckle. He took that Bret Hart front buckle and the place went, oh, and you know what? He stayed down. And I went, here's the heat spot. That's the heat. And now all I got to do is punctuate it. And I did that with that football kick, you know, and then the punt and the Tim Tebow. So it's like, it's an art. And a lot of people get into wrestling now, the art form is missing because, I mean, you look at the videos, you see the training, and there's nothing wrong with it, you know, but you'll see almost every training video that you see now, for the most part, you see them practicing the flip, practicing some crazy move or maneuver, you know, but they don't get the storytelling down. They don't understand the psychology of wrestling, and that's the important part.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's funny that you mentioned about you got to listen and see what the crowd wants or what the crowd is feeling in the moment. There was another wrestler who I had actually spoke with. We haven't disclosed that yet, but or posted the episode about it. But it was interesting hearing him talk a little bit about, you know, sometimes you want to have everything scripted, and that seems to be kind of how WWE does it. But the Japanese style, it's more or less like you go out there, you listen to the fans, and you go off of what they're doing. You make sure that you are feeding off of them and figuring out, okay, now's the time, and they really like that spot. Let's go into something else. Let's go further instead of just, okay, we're going to do exactly as this list says. You know, like, it's not a checklist. You don't just check boxes. You got to figure out how to make the performance work. It is an art form that not a lot of people really understand it as an art form anymore. And that kind of drives me nuts because I see it as it's one of the last true art forms because nobody else is going out on stage and cutting themselves open with blades.
Yeah.
That's not something everybody is doing anymore. And I feel like it is becoming lost in either the fan base or maybe it's some of the performances that we see at this point.
You remember the show called Shotgun Saturday Night?
Vaguely, yes.
WWF in the mid-90s, mid and late 90s, say late 90s, they created Shotgun Saturday Night. And they will hold it out of Times Square at their WWE restaurant, whatever it was called, I can't remember. That's where it emanated from. And how great of a show that would be today, Shotgun, because that's basically what everybody does. It's just Shotgun. They're just going for that viral moment, as you said. We just need to create a viral moment. So I can get views. That's it. But just because you create a viral moment doesn't mean you're over. Sometimes it just means you're stupid for doing what you did, because just go look at the people talking about it and what they're saying about it. You know, all these years I've been in this business, I may have bled once or twice. In OVW, I got opened up by Bobby Lashley off of me hitting him with my forearm, and Bobby at the time bumped awkwardly, and our heads hit. So I still bear that scar right here. And it was a dark match too. That's the crazy part, I think. And I can't even remember another time where I've bled, but I'm so grateful. 22 years in this darn business, man. I can't believe I'm saying that. And I've never cut myself once and never planned on doing it. But yeah, listen to the people. That's something myself and CM Punk did many a times. We worked to the finish, and we went out there and worked. One of my favorite matches with CM Punk, I think I always used to say New Orleans, but I've been proven so wrong. I correct myself, but I believe it was Texas. We were in Texas, and where specifically, I'm not going to say because I'm not trying to be Ric Flair. I mean, this guy's 80 plus years old or somewhere around there, 70 something, and he could just name off the date, the building, and all that stuff. I haven't quite got there yet. Not sure I want to be there. But, I want to say it was San Antonio, Texas. Myself and CM Punk, we did a 2 out of 3 falls match. And I want you guys, if you get a moment, to pull it up on YouTube. This was supposed to be a 4-way tournament. Myself versus Tommy Dreamer and CM Punk versus Marcus Corvan. This was the entire show. And then out of those 2 winners, with I think a segment in between, the 2 finalists would come together to become the number 1 contender at the time, and I think it was for John Morrison's title. Well, this was the infamous date where Marcus Corvan no-showed, and he had some tragedy to take place in his family, I believe. That was what was told. And they had to change it right before we got ready to go out. Okay. I remember Dean Malenko coming to me, if I'm correct, and go, "It's you 2 guys not in the 2 out of 3 match." Like, huh? Huh? He's like, "What?" "Yeah, 2 out of 3 falls. You got 20 minutes. What? Right. So, myself and CM Punk, okay, let's get the finish. We got the finish. We'll do everything else out there. And so a lot of the stuff that me and Punk did, that you'll see whenever we're in the ring, we're just going off of the people. We're just calling it. We're just working it.
Absolutely. And that's something that I feel like sometimes we're missing in WWE, and just wrestling in general, I should say. We're kind of
it's gotten so far of being so overly produced. I think now it's even, I guess you can say it now more so than you could before, because you guys get to see it and I haven't watched it. I still haven't, where I'm going. I haven't pushed myself to watch it. I have yet to watch an episode of Unreal. But obviously you can't help but catch some of it if you're on social media or something that somebody. But the fact that every single thing is planned, and you have somebody say, "Okay, do this now. Okay, wait for this," and they're going to do this now. It's like, oh, I didn't know it had got. Listen, I hadn't been there. I haven't been there since '08. I've been back, but I haven't wrestled for them. And it's like, I didn't know it was like that. It's like, but this is where we are today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't watched it either. I have avoided it like the plague, because I feel like if I'm already suspending belief to watch this, don't show me how it's fake. I get like some people want to see the making of certain movies and everything, but the whole point of this is supposed to be an illusion to an extent. I don't want to be able to see the magic trick and how it's performed already.
David Copperfield still sells out buildings because people want to suspend their disbelief. If he showed you how he made the Statue of Liberty appear and disappear, or a jet liner appear and disappear, I doubt you're going to want to go back. Yeah. So much like those people that go still to see David Copperfield or Chris Angel or David Blaine, or we as wrestling, as the wrestling community, we still have a responsibility to do the same thing and stay away from the stuff that's going to alienate us in the process. What do you mean? Well, they may put it out, but it's still your responsibility to say, I don't want to see this. I don't want to know how it's done. Because it's going to taint you. It's going to, you'll lose the thrill when you're watching. It's like, I watched Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
Mick Foley. You know how many people in that audience of 16 plus thousand in Kansas City, I believe it was? Do you know how many people, when this man is getting bloody and badgered over the head with a steel freaking chair, is going, that's a fake chair. It's fake. You know how many people was doing that? Probably not that many, but you're always going to have the skeptics out there say, it's a fake chair. Because that's always existed. You still get asked that question. When they hit you with the chair, yeah, it's a real chair. Well, they got it's gimmick, right? No, it's just a chair. But today, with all of the dives, and I think, WWE's got to the point where they just say, look, everybody know what it is. We've been saying sport entertainment. Let's just let them in. It's okay now that they can see people running and putting pads under the announce table or pulling the rip cord from the announce table, so when they crash through, like, we're in a state-of-the-art stage now. Everybody's videoing. Everybody, and it's like, well, they don't try to hide it anymore. So it is what it is. I wish things could go back, but then I'll just be sounding like somebody 30 years, before me, which is crazy because, back in my day, kid.
Hey, it's all right to have that kind of thing. When we grow into something or we grow in any kind of business, we're going to look back and say, like, man, this is so different from when I had to come through this. And we're all going to look at it that way. And speaking of when you were coming up in the business, can you tell me a little bit about how it was early on training and everything in OVW?
Well, I walked in OVW. First person that I actually got in the ring with, to roll around with upon my arrival in Louisville, was Mike Mondo. Mike Mondo and I just put on according to others, a clinic at my July charity event. He came to support it. And he's a freaking monster, is Mike Mondo. My original trainer was Mike Mondo, Nick Dinsmore. Mondo dealt with the first timers, and then you graduate to Nick Dinsmore's class. When I finally got a chance to be in and around the massive setup, when I first came to OVW for the tryout, the first person that called me in the ring was Chris Daniels. And he's like, come on in, I'm like, it's Chris Daniels, and he kind of helped me around, showed me how to run, because he's like, you're the boxer, right? Yeah, I'm the boxer. Like, yeah, it's a wrestling ring. Take bigger steps. I know because of your footwork. And that was a thing. I had to learn how to, instead of this hopping on, back and forth and taking these little tiny steps to run the ropes, because I used to run that 20-foot ring. Instead of taking 3 steps to get across, I'll take like 8, because that's how fast I was running. It's like, slow down. But anyway, Chris Daniels, that was pretty cool. Mark Magnus, Muhammad Hassan, he was the first person to teach me how to do a back body drop. That was something that was never going to be something that I desired to do. He gave me the confidence, and because he used to take these big, beautiful back body drops, and he was showing me how. It's like, bro, I'm not. And we took out the crash pad and all that stuff, but all these years later, you never seen Pope take a back drop. Maybe once. You probably see one back. No, literally, you see me because it's like, okay, I'm not finna risk. That's not for me. I've taken one backdrop on national television. You know who that was against? It was when myself and Shelton Benjamin went against Ric Flair and CM Punk on ECW.
Okay.
Flair chopped me. I bumped. Soon as I came up, he shot me and said backdrop.
Wow.
What do you do? That's calling it. That's not saying, hey, kid, can you take a backdrop? Hey, kid, can you do it? No, he just called it. And it's like, okay, I got to take it. I took it like Ric Flair. I took it halfway sideways, like Ric Flair. But my time in OVW was one, it was the building block to my career, obviously. And learning under Jim Cornette, Danny Davis, the legendary Rip Rogers, all of those guys, when you see me, you see some of them, you see their fruit, then getting the WWE, Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, Ricky Steamboat, and definitely I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Al Snow. Al Snow, psychology-wise, it really started clicking with Al Snow before I got up there. And then, I started learning more. Arn Anderson is just, he's the man. He's the
Awesome.
Man. And it's a shame. It's a shame that he's not in a position. And maybe he don't need to now, and maybe he don't want to. But boy, him, and Fit Finley, don't want to leave Fit out. Man, it's a shame that Arn isn't around to really sew into these kids today. But as we found out from his own admittance, half of them don't want to hear what he had to say anyways. So that's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. How do you have a legend in front of you and you don't want to hear from him?
That's crazy. Jake the Snake said the same thing. So it's like, oh, well. And I'm like that now too, I told Billy Corgan, I'm here and I'm helping anybody that want to help be elevated, when it comes to the NWA, because you got a lot of young kids that be in there on this programming that they're using or trying to make or find into stars. But if you don't feel like you need the advice, don't come out of the ring and go to somebody that's your peer that you wrestled on the indies with. I guess they've already headlined pay-per-views. I guess they've drawn money in the business. It's like, why are you guys going to, people who have been there, like the Trevor Murdochs and Mike Mondo, who again traveled the world with Vince McMahon as the Spirit Squad that I was supposed to be a part of, that I turned down, which is the reason he got that position. And the list goes on. When you got people that are around you that are proven, Tom Latimer, you should be going to these guys. But a lot of the people at any show, not just this show, again, the show that I did 2 weeks ago in Indiana, certain ones came up, was like, Pope, would you watch my match? I would love your feedback, this, that, and the other. Others go out there because they're already stars. So it's like, okay.
Of course. I mean, some people are just going to think, yeah, I already got it. I don't need to hear from that guy specifically. Or maybe they just want to hear from their friend because they're maybe going to be an echo chamber and say, yeah, man, it was great. But
exactly.
you got to go beyond that. And I also did want to ask you about, because you had mentioned Arn Anderson, and earlier you were saying how Arn and Ric Flair were some of your favorites. How did it feel learning from some of your idols? How was that experience for you?
Listen, amazing. Again, when we do things accordingly to the will of our Creator, man, great is your reward, and we're looking for greater. I know you are, and I am too. But I want to say, I never in a million years. First off, just meeting Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette was the first NWA legend that I met. He's the first one I ever talked to, on a personal level. He called me when I'm an officer in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay with my girl in my 1990 Camaro, if you will. And we're sitting there chilling on it could have been a Saturday, maybe a Sunday, I think it was. But we're just chilling. and we both have kind of like nodded off, and my phone rings, and I open up, it's the flip phone at the time. I open it up, hello, because I'm asleep. I'm like, hello, like, Elijah, can you hear me? I'm like, hello, can you hear me? I'm gonna call you right back. Get to a spot where you can hear me. And I hang it up, and I'm like, is that Jim Cornette? I'm thinking I'm dreaming. I'm thinking that I'm dreaming. Like, was that Jim Cornette? And so I get out and I'm looking at the phone. I'm trying to recognize the number. Like, that sounded like it was Jim Cornette. And I stand on the outside the car now, and I walk to the edge of the water of the bay, stand at the dock of the bay on the dock. And all of a sudden it rings again. I go, hello? He's like, Elijah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me? I'm like, yeah, I can hear you. He's like, this is Jim Cornette for OVW. I'm calling to let you know that out of everybody that came up there that gave all these pictures of them looking all jacked, but they didn't look like the Pillsbury Doughboy, once they show up, you're actually the one that looked like you said you look, and you got talent, you got a skin, He's like, you don't know a headlock from a wrist lock, but I'm telling you, if you come back to Louisville, Kentucky, I can't promise you a contract, but I can almost guarantee you a contract. I know you got your mom. I know you just bought this house. I know you're taking care of your sister's kids. But I'm telling you, you got something. We can train you. So I'm like, okay, take some time to think about it. Call me back.
Amazing.
So Jim was my first like foray into like, wow, the door. I'm walking through that door, and getting here, I show up to WWE when they called me up. Again, they called me up for the Spirit Squad. That was a no. I turned that down. Vince was like, this is my idea. Gonna make a lot of money. And if you're not comfortable, I don't want you doing it. And but I want to be clear. This is my idea. Male cheerleaders. Oh, so much heat. And he said, you're going to go to the top immediately because you're going to be with me. Those are Vince's words. And so everybody was excited. Myself, Ken Doan, Mitch from that Tough Enough show, and Nick Nemeth. It was us four. And of course, I was the, only one that looked like me. So, well, I don't even know the black kid name on South Park, but that was me.
I'm pretty sure his name is Token. So
I was about to say I was the Token. Listen, those guys were hella talented. And I thought about all the flips and all the things. They wanted to do trampolines and jumping over the top rope. And then I thought about being the Token as well. And it's like, I'm not going to be able to commit to this. I got an afro right now, then I'll be going out there with afro puffs, with rubber bands. And no, we ain't going to do that. So I just wasn't comfortable. And Vince wanted everybody to be 100% on board. So I was like, yeah. And I spoke with Johnny Ace first. And he was like, what's wrong, kid? I was like, Johnny, I'm just not feeling it. What if you're not? Let's go back in here. Go tell Vince. He'll appreciate your honesty. And so that's what I did. I went back in, sat down with Vince. I told him how I felt. And he thanked me. He reached out, he shook my hand. He said, we'll send you back to OVW, and we'll bring you back when we get something else for you. Now, I said all of that to say this, coming back out of the woods. When they finally called me back up to do the thing with Turkai, I walk in the building, I got my bag, got my shirt on, my tie, and I freeze all of a sudden. I just freeze because I see coming down the hall and he's on my wall as I look at him. The American Dream, Dusty Rose, walking down the hallway with that swagger like only he could. And so I got to stand there and wait so I can shake his hand and introduce myself. As soon as he got to me, I go, "Hey, Dream, Elijah Burke, nice to meet you." He slapped my hand. "Move that hand, boy." Put his arm around me. Say, "I know who you is. I'm the one that brought you up here. Go put your bag down and come back and find me. We're going to make a lot of money together." And the rest is history. He was my hands-on. Everything I had. "Burke, come in." That's why he called me out of the Hall of Fame. Where Elijah Burke at? He that brother there. Where Michael Hayes? So my point of saying it is this. You couldn't have convinced me as that little black Afro-headed kid in Jacksonville, Florida, growing up in impoverished communities, being bad to the point to where not even my grandma wanted to deal with me at times. You couldn't have convinced me that one day, because I'm sitting at the recliner on the floor in Indian style by my daddy watching NWA Power Hour or NWA on Saturday, you couldn't have convinced me that I'll be standing in the ring with my arms around a Vince McMahon doing a segment with him or being mentored by the American Dream Dusty Rose or becoming friends with people, or associates with like the Arn and Dean, who I just saw it, and Hulk Hogan, who you couldn't convince me that I'd be texting and sharing texts with Hulk Hogan, the biggest star the business has ever known. So I will say this, that the Lord is good, and his mercies is everlasting, and I'm just grateful. I truly am for it all. And I'm not done yet. I'm not done until I get that pinnacle in the NWA. I want the 10 pounds of gold. That's why I'm back. And talk about coming full circle. I would love to, when that happens, be right back with you here talking about that journey.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to have you back once that happens as well, because I'll be honest, I'm a fan and I love this. I love being able to talk with you about your career and your journey as it has progressed. And I love seeing the Pope. This is something really special. And we are getting a little bit short on time at this point. So I do want to ask you, as we end the show usually, or when we get close to ending the show, I should say, I do want to ask you, what is your recommendation for the audience? It could be a movie, TV show, video game, cat breed, cactus variety. It doesn't matter what it is, or even a recipe or a song that you love. Just something that you love that you think others should try or others need to see.
Well, that is great. That's a good question. I never thought about it. That's just a little throwback to what I told you earlier. A song that I would recommend everyone to listen to is by the greatest artist, the biggest artist of all time, selling artist. That's Michael Jackson. I will tell you to listen to Man in the Mirror. That is apropos to every single individual and their progression or lack of in life. If you just start and look with the Man in the Mirror. So those lyrics are so profound, saying that I'm going to start with me. I'm asking myself to change my ways. And it's very important. If you change your thought process, you change your mind, you change your ways. You got to start thinking differently. And so, so that's one of them songs that is right there in the middle. You can look at it as being spiritual. You can look at it as just being philosophical. It's all up to how you view it. But that song is paramount. You understand? That song is it. And I think everybody can relate to that man in the mirror.
Oh, absolutely agree. And I will say this isn't my full recommendation for the show, but I would recommend hearing the version by Anthem Lights. I heard that a long time ago, and it was a very nice sound. And I remember just thinking, like, it's different from the original, but not that different.
Really?
Yes, sir. It's great in my opinion. I thought it's very well done. It's a little bit heavier on piano and everything. And
I'm a pianist. Well, is that the
really?
way? I play the piano, man.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So I love tickling the ivories, man. Everywhere, if I go anywhere, I'm in the airport. Wherever there's a piano, you're gonna find me. Yeah, I'm a little rusty here and there, but I love to get on there and just hit a couple of tunes, man. So I love the piano.
Amazing. We're learning so much about you, and it's something that I really love. But man, we'll come back to this another day. We will do another show. I promise you, I will be absolutely open to it. But so my recommendation this week for you guys know I am a gamer by this point. I'm going to recommend Borderlands 2 just because Borderlands 4 is coming out soon. And, I don't know what's going to happen in the next game. I was a little disappointed by 3, but, maybe 4 will turn it around. And I'm, excited for the future at any point, but hopefully the franchise keeps going further. But also with that, Mr. Burke, I do want to ask, do you have any other last messages for the audience before we cut out?
No. Look, man, I want to thank you for your service, and what you do. Not this podcast, not just this, but certainly I'm talking about your career. We appreciate that. And I just want to tell everybody to, as I said before, find some way that you can be a positive influence on somebody, even if it's, yourself, because sometimes you got to encourage yourself, so sometimes you got to be a positive influence for yourself. So those would be the last words that I would like to leave with you, is find a way to be a positive influence while you try to be the change that you wish to see in the world. And be sure to check out your boy on Post Point of View podcast with Elijah Burke, myself, and Polo Del Mar, wherever you get your podcasts at. We are there. And I got a big interview coming up myself here with, I don't want to spoil it, but it's going to be a sit-down interview just like this. And it's going to be very big with a very polarized figure from WWE's history.
Okay. Would you be able to give any hint for that? That wouldn't give everything away.
Well, let's just say one of my favorite movies is The Color Purple.
Okay. It's a good hint to give off, and I like that. Now, you guys know how I usually end the show, but I want to start off with this. Now, next time that I have you on the show, Mr. Burke, I'd like to explain the story behind the phrase that I say at the end of every show, because there's a long story to it and why I say it. And next time that you're on, I want to make that a priority at the very end to explain it. So we'll make a little more time for it next time. But you guys know how I always end the show. Do something nice for somebody. You never know who needs it. Help a fellow man out. Everybody needs it at some point. And, may even be just given to this charity that the Love Alive is a part, or given to the Love Alive charity. It is a great way to do that. So in the words of my old friend, Memphis Mark, we're out.